So as you may know, the first step for you to get to know your learners, there may be many methods, informal or more formal ones, is one thing is really knowing how to craft questions. So that's the most important thing for you. To get to know your learners, craft questions that will get you closer to them. So their answers will give you insight into their needs, goals, pain points, etc. So the first step is that you need to understand that these questions could be used in different ways. Either it would be a survey, it would be an interview, it could be a focus group, it could be a discussion, it could be just an informal discussion or chat. You can just go and they're on their desk and you just come and ask them questions. So it could be many ways. You could even send like an offline thing, email that they could answer you back. But for us here, is the focus is questions that get you the right answers. And the more you get the right answers, the more learner empathy you build, and the more you're likely to build learning experiences that are tailored to the needs and expectations of your learners and business objectives. So there are two types of constructs. There are attitudes and knowledge. Uh, Sometimes you want to not only understand how people do things, but you want to understand how do they think, how do they perceive things. And even the way they perceive may not be the answer. Remember, there is Henry Ford who was asked that, like, how did you know, like, that you wanted to build those cars? I think that was the question, and he mentioned, well, if I asked people, they would have told me to have faster horses. So even if you ask people about their needs, their answers may not lead you to the actual answer. You have to interpret and ask yourself, so what? What am I really understanding from their needs and their answers? So if they told you we want faster horses, how likely are you going to build a car instead? And so that's kind of why the design process and the learner empathy is important, is that you go beyond their words. You kind of understand beyond it and you interpret it and you ask yourself, so what? What can I do with this information so I can serve these people? So attitude as a construct is measuring a person's feelings or opinions towards a certain topic, while knowledge constructs measure a person's understanding or familiarity with the topic. So you want to be able to ask both attitude questions and knowledge questions, but also you want to dig into their pain points, their needs, their goals, their expectations, and ask follow-up questions that allow you to dig deeper based on their answers. Because some people may be very chatty and others may not be very chatty. And most importantly, you want to make that person talking to you very comfortable so they can share as much as they want. And you tell them that there is no right or wrong answer. You're learning their opinions, their experiences, and you're understanding how can you best help them. And so if you set this stage, you're likely to get the good answers that will move things forward for you. And most importantly, we'll talk about some do's and don'ts. Try to not ask them questions that are leading. A leading question is a question that assumes an answer in it. If I tell you, how do you like this Udemy course so far? You are likely to talk about something positive because I told you, how do you like? What if I told you, what do you think about this Udemy course? Then you are likely to say something positive or negative. So these are some of my tips that I would tell you. Don't overthink this way of getting to know your learners. I know there are a lot of opinions in this space. I try to make things simple for you in this course so you kind of trust your gut and trust your actual human common sense. Just know that you're trying to learn about people and try to get to uncover things that are important, which are goals, motivations, needs, problems, and expectations. So let's talk about data types. So you may be able, through the type of question you ask, you may be able to get qualitative types of answers and quantitative types of answers. So qualitative data is non-numerical. It's used to understand the meaning behind a person's thoughts and feelings. So for example, an open-ended question such as, can you describe your experience with the product, would give you qualitative data, its opinions, its words. And the way you analyze qualitative data, so you have a lot of opinions, is you try to first cluster that data that is, and we'll see this more under the learning experience design module of this course, is that when you cluster those data points that are kind of similar to each other, you can create a group and you can give it a theme. And so this is how you analyze qualitative data, is by clustering. They call it even affinity mapping, and then making conclusions from those groups of insights. So you may be talking to 5 people, they have 5 different opinions, but 3 opinions are kind of similar, and you can give them a title and you can start making sense of that data, and it will become less overwhelming. And usually designers and design thinkers work with sticky notes. So either you have sticky notes that are physical sticky notes, or you can use virtual sticky notes, like on whiteboarding tools like Miro, for instance, that I use a lot. So qualitative data is most likely the one that you'll be working with, but you can also have quantitative data. Quantitative data is data that you ask, especially on a scale where you ask people to rate an experience or rate something, a product. And so it's numerical, and it's used to measure the frequency of quantity of a person's thoughts and feelings. For example, a multiple choice question such as, on a scale of 1 to 5, how satisfied are you with the product? You would elicit more of a quantitative type of answer. And usually these are straightforward. You have percentages. You also have what is called an NPS score. And so usually your survey your survey tools gives you those insights. You can have percentages and things like that. So I use quantitative data to measure the effectiveness of a learning experience. And sometimes I use quantitative data to get to know my learners' perceptions and opinions about their learning, their skill. Like sometimes I tell them, oh, assess your skill level in this. And so they would give me an assessment. And then after I teach them something during a learning experience, then self-assess again, and then I do a before-after self-assessment of that skill and knowledge, confidence. So mixed methods, again, you can use multiple methods. You can combine qualitative and quantitative data collection. You can use surveys, interviews, observations. You can use usage or user data. Sometimes, let's say your learners use a tool online, so you can go and measure how many times do they use it, how many times do they click on this. So there are Google Analytics or tools like Pendo that allow you to do that. So this type of research is useful for gaining a more comprehensive understanding, because you can't really take a problem and understand it from one angle. You want to be able to take it from different angles and different methods, so then you can make conclusions at the end. And usually you have learner researchers or user researchers that do this work for you, but sometimes you don't have that luxury to having a research person with you, so you have to do the research yourself. And then triangulation, which is kind of a strategy that involves using multiple data sources and methods to study a topic. So you can use usage data from an analytics tool. You can use interviews. You can use survey results. You can use observations. And this helps increase the validity of the research that you're doing and the insights that you're getting about your learners. So either you kind of improve a learning experience, or you design a learning experience based on that. So it's giving you multiple perspectives on the same issue. So when developing questions for a survey or interview or an observation or a group discussion, focus group, it's important to keep in mind a few tips. Make sure your questions are clear and easy to understand. Avoid leading questions, as I mentioned, questions that imply an answer. And avoid asking double-barreled questions. Basically, it's questions that ask multiple questions at the same time. And make sure that your questions go from simple to more complex, from bio data, things that are like, tell me what was your last time you used this or that, and then you kind of dig deeper into experiences and opinions. You can find a lot of interview guides here and there. I will give you an interview guide example in the Learn Experience Design section of this course, but just so you keep in mind that this is important for you. And again, use your common sense. Don't overthink it. It's just you getting to know another human being, and mainly the human being you're getting to know is a learner or a set of learners. So in conclusion, creating and crafting questions to get to know your learner is an important aspect of being an instructional designer. So determining the construct, understanding the types of data you want, utilizing mixed method research, and using triangulation are strategies that can help you increase the validity of your research to build your learner empathy. And by following tips for writing clear and unbiased questions, you can ensure that whatever you learn about your learners is going to be accurate, useful, insightful, and most importantly, action-oriented for you to make the right design decisions.